gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my Doctor Who Season 26 ranking. This is it. This is the final ranking of a classic Doctor Who season. These are the last 4 stories of classic Doctor Who, and whilst I'll be saving my Sylvester McCoy top 5 stories ranking till after his full tenure is over, but just before we get to the TV movie, this is it as far as his TV stories are concerned. This is it. This is the end of the Sylvester McCoy era as far as the TV stories are concerned. Although I do, I'm taking his tenure up to his appearance in the TV movie, and I'll be ending his era of reviews just before we do that one. So I'll be doing the first couple of Wilderness Years reviews will be done before the 7th Doctor top 5 stories ranking, and then that, like the 6th Doctor ranking just before Time in the Rani, that will bookend the tenure before we get to the regeneration story, because in those ones cases the regeneration story is in the next Doctor's era. And similarly, 8th Doctor top 5 moments ranking will be done just after Scrim the Shalka and before Rose. So let's get down into the season 26 ranking. The 80s ranking will be done next, by the way, though, because this is the end of the 80s. So although the McCoy ranking is coming up just before the TV movie, after more than 30 years in the TARDIS before the TV movie, the 80s ranking will be after this one, and then we'll get on to the Wilderness Years reviews. Okay, so season 26, the stories we have this season are Battlefield, Ghostlight, The Curse of Fenric, and Survival. And to be honest, I actually am starting to wonder if season 26 could be my favourite season. I mean, it was 25, it could still be. But I'm now wondering if 26 would be. But I think I've come to the conclusion that 25 still is my favourite season of classic Doctor Who, for one simple reason. That season has 1 8 out of 10, 2 9 out of 10, and 1 10 out of 10 stories. This season has 1 10 out of 10, 2 9 out of 10, and 1 6 out of 10. So season 25 is actually slightly better. I also think season either 7 or 13 could be the best classic seasons, but 25 and 26 are my favourites. Or 20 or 7 or 13 maybe, but 25 and 26 are 2 of the most enjoyable ones I have watched. However, one story of this particular season didn't quite make me as enjoyed as some of the other stories from 25 and 26. So number 4 of my ranking of season 26 is Ghostlight. I'd even go so far as to say this is the worst story of the McCoy era after Time in the Rani and Dragonfly. If I was doing a top 10 if I was doing the entire McCoy era ranked from worst to best, excluding the Wilderness Years stories and reappearances and other stuff, it was just his 12 TV stories, then this would be number 10. This would be 10 out of 12. Which is bad. I mean, this story's not bad, but I'm not really into it. There's some good elements. The McCoy does a great performance. Sophie Aldred does a great performance, and her character's really well developed throughout the story. But I don't know. I can't really tell what's going on half the time, because there's either the music is too bloody loud or it's too dark. Not as dark as some of the later Harry Potter films, but it's still dark enough for not really sure what's going on, and just so much loud organ music. I mean, the music sounds great, but I want to hear what they're saying, and I can't really make out what's going on half the time. I mean, it's not even that much. It's difficult to follow the story, and that's why I wasn't so keen on it. I don't know what to make of it in places. And it's difficult to follow the plot of. It's difficult to follow what's going on. That's why I'm not really a big fan of this one. At least Paradise Towers, I could follow what that one was about, even though it wasn't that well handled in parts of the execution. I think the execution could have been handled a little bit better, and maybe some scripting's fixer-uppers. And I think this one's kind of better in the script, script and story-wise. However, it's just, I don't know what this one's about, and that derails the enjoyment a bit. Or at least Paradise Towers, I know what that one's about, and I enjoyed watching that one. It could have been fixed up a little bit more, but I enjoyed it. This one, I can't enjoy that much because I haven't a clue what's going on half the time. It's difficult to tell, and some points they go down these subplots that I don't really care about. At least that stupid stubborn reverend guy gets a decent gets a really good comeuppance. I like that. Surprised it was only in part 2 though, and they couldn't wait to do it until part 3, I suppose. And they couldn't wait till part 3 to do it, but then again, it was such a dickish character. I don't blame them. But yeah, Ghostlight, not really my cup of tea. I mean, I can watch it fine, but I'm just not going to be able to follow it as much as everybody else. Okay, now that we've gone past that, we've now onto number 3, and now we're into the stories that are considered some of the strongest of the Sylvester McCoy era. Don't be surprised if these stories feature on the McCoy top 5 stories ranking at the end after we've done his Wilderness Years stories. Number 3 is a brilliant story. It's brilliantly scripted, brilliantly executed, some really great stuff, and there's a nice action story as well, so action fans like me will be happy. And it's a well-crafted story that not only hints mystery at the character of the Doctor, but also what he could do in the future incarnation. That's brilliant. That's just so brilliant. And this is, of course, Battlefield. Yep, the start of the season, and like its predecessor, Ben Avarich does a fantastic job in opening the season spectacularly. I'm wondering if Earthfade would have been as good as either of those two stories if season 27 had been made, because Ben Avarich was going to write that one, and that was going to be the season opener of that season if it was made. So I was wondering if that one was going to be as good. But Battlefield, just epic story, some really great supporting characters. Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart's back one more time in the show, apart from his appearances in Dimensions in Time and the Sarah Jane Adventures, and Big Finish. But yeah, Nicholas Courtney has one last television appearance in the show, and he's so amazing. Also really love Jean Marsh as Morgan Lee Frey in this story. She possibly does her best performance in the show, especially at the very end, where when she realises the Doctor's telling the truth about Arthur being dead, she's just spectacular there. And the guy playing Mordred seems to be enjoying his role superbly. He's just so into the role. He's loving every second, and because of that, I love every second of him being on screen. He's a dick character, no doubt, but I love watching him on screen because he's so fun and the actor is so invested in the role. It's just, it's beautiful. This is an amazing story. So Battlefield, a very strong story. Not the best of this season, but again, there's 2 more stories out, also really, really strong. Number 2. Now, this one I actually almost gave a 10 out of 10 on the latest viewing. However, I'm thinking about it a little bit later on. It doesn't quite match up to the 10 out of 10 score just yet. But still extremely strong. The Curse of Fenric. This is another amazing story, and it handles its story so well. I love the Doctor-Ace relationship in this. I love how it's tying all these elements of the Seventh Doctor together. Ian Briggs, like Steve Gallagher, and I think it's Christopher Bailey, as I mentioned in the Curse of Fenric review, since their first story, they have massively improved on their second story, because their first stories, they were pretty terrible. But their second stories, they are amazing. Or at least they're good in the other 2 cases. But in Steve Gallagher and Christopher Bailey's stories, their first ones were bad. Steve Gallagher wrote Warrior's Gate. That was fucking awful. I can't stand that one. But then he went on to write Terminus, which I liked. I thought that was okay. Chris Bailey, he wrote Kinder, which I also can't stand. Not as bad as Warrior's Gate, but I can't stand that. I can't understand how some people would like that. Fair enough if you do, but I don't know how. And then he went on to write a sequel, Snake Dance, and I thought that was actually pretty good. I used to hate that one more than Kinder, and then swapped round, but I still didn't like it. And then I liked it, so Bailey did improve, just like Gallagher. And the same goes for Ian Briggs. Dragonfire. I don't hate it as much as I used to, but I still have a massive problems with it in places, and I even did a rant in the review on the Universal's channel, so go check that out. Here, on the other hand, Curse of Fenric is epic. So Ian Briggs has vastly improved since Dragonfire. Although out of the three examples I've used for bad and good, bad first story and good second story, but Dragonfire is the least worst, and Curse of Fenric is the best. So yeah, Ian Briggs does a really great story here, some really great character development, ties into some really great stuff, and it's just all around good. Some little problems there and now and again, and just a couple of issues that I did have that kind of knocked it down to being a 10 out from a 10 to a 9, but still an amazing story. And if this one had been the season opener as originally planned, it would have been a great opener, although I would have felt that the Doctor Ace dynamic wouldn't have been as great throughout the rest of the season. I think it's going as the penultimate story, because they wanted a monster story for October, end of October, because Halloween. But I think that also helps with the character development of the Doctor and Ace. Having Battlefield and Ghost like before, it's kind of helped with the character developments of the two and their relationship with each other. So by the end, it kind of they've had a bit of a beating, but they still remain pretty strong and friendly with each other, and they still have one more story to show that off afterwards as well. So I think having it here makes a lot of sense. So yeah. So Curse of Fenric, that was amazing. But the number one story, I used to dislike this one, but after a couple of rewatches, it was brilliant, and the latest rewatch continued to be brilliant. Number one is, of course, the final classic Doctor Who story, Survival. What can be said about the story? It's the scripting is amazing. The story is amazing. There's some really great supporting characters. The main cast are amazing. Not as good as Curse of Fenric, but still amazing. Some really great execution. It's mostly location-based, especially mainly in Perivale. It's also the only story in this season to have scenes set on another planet. The rest of the season is entirely set on Earth. It could be at different points in Earth's history, but it's entirely set on Earth. This story is also set on Earth in episode 1, apart from some scenes with the Master at the very end, and not in episode 2, half of episode, I would say almost all of episode 3, again, apart from stuff at the start, and some stuff later on, but mostly set on Earth, but you also got quite a lot of Cheetah Planets scenes as well. So episode 2 is completely Cheetah Planet set, apart from maybe 1 or 2 scenes where they get another victim to join the hunt. So yeah, it's just so amazing, and he looks really well. And whilst Rona Munro wasn't so impressed with the Cheetah People's designs, I actually think they did pretty well for a 1989 budget. And I think it's all really well executed. And I love the camera shots where you're following the camera backwards, looking down on the person, up, and that's how it would be for a cheetah person on a horse looking down on a person. That is an excellent camera work. Who directed this story? I can't have the DVDs downstairs because I'm going to use it for Death of the Doctors. But the director, it's Alan Waring, I remembered. He does an amazing job. It's so good. Oh, this story is so good. And I love that final scene. Oh, it's so great. And sadly, this would be the final story of the classic era, but it's a great one to go out on. And even if it was the last story of the classic era, and if you know it was the last episode, excluding wilderness stuff, until 7 years later with the TV movie for the next episode, and the next episode of a series 16 years later with Rose, it was still a bloody brilliant way to end the show. Even if it was going to be it was still a bloody brilliant story, and it makes a lot of sense that this is the last story of the entire show, which is it's a shame, but it's a good one to go out on. So yeah, at least it was that. I mean, would you have wanted a Dragonfire to go out on? Jesus Christ, no thank you. No, it's better we got something like this, and we did. And yeah, so despite being the end of the classic era, say it's a great way to end the era on, and kind of does give us optimism for the return of the show when it did. Well, the 2 times it did, I should say, with the TV movie, and then with the revived era, starting with Rose. Plus the wilderness year stuff that I'll be talking about soon. So yeah, Survival, magnificent story. So that's it for my season 26 ranking. So to recap, number 4 is Ghostlight, number 3 is Battlefield, number 2 is The Curse of Fenric, and number 1 is Survival. So yeah, that's it. That's season 26. That's the end of classic Doctor Who, apart from some wilderness years stuff that I'll be talking about. Hence why I'll be doing the McCoy ranking after his Wilderness Years stuff, and then we'll get on to Paul McGann. But I will be doing the 80s ranking next. Wilderness stuff I'll be talking about in the McCoy era will be a Search Out Science Doctor Who special, Search Out Space, which is the last time you'll hear the McCoy theme on screen, I think. Then you get Dimensions in Time, the 30th anniversary Children in Need special in 1993. Then we've got the more than 30 years in the TARDIS documentary. And then after that will be the top 5 McCoy stories ranking. Then we're on to the TV movie. I'll be doing the Destiny of the Doctor's master cut scenes as a bonus review, like Fixed with some Torrents. That won't be technically counted as a Wilderness Years review. As a proper one, that will be in the ranking. Then there's the Curse of Fatal Death. Then there's the 1990s Wilderness Years ranking. Then there's the webcast Death Comes to Time, Real Time, and the 2003 Sharda. Then there's the Scrim the Shalka, which is the other ones were Flash animation webcast. This is a Cosgrove Hall animated webcast, and in the animation category, it's far superior. Then we get to the early to mid 2000s Wilderness Years ranking, and then the Wilderness Years ranking overall. Then we'll have the top 5 Paul McGann 8th Doctor moments ranking, and also the top 5 John Hurt War Doctor moments ranking just afterwards, because 8th Doctor is then followed by the War Doctor, who's then followed by the 9th Doctor, and in order to start the 9th Doctor series, we've got to get through the War Doctors briefly as well before we actually see his actual TV adventures during the 11th Doctor's era. And this will be TV only. And then after that, we will start the 9th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston era, with Series 1, Episode 1, Rose. So we got all that from the Wilderness Years and the remainder of the 7th Doctor and the 8th Doctor, and dip into the War Doctor eras before we get onto the first episode of Series 1 in the 9th Doctor's era. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time for the 1980s ranking list. I'll see you guys then. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. That season has 180th, and it's just so so Battlefield, a very strong, very highly remarked. So Battlefield gets a really high recommendation for you to check out. So Battlefield gets a really strong praise from. I used to hate that one a little bit. I used to hate that one more, and then I used to hate that, and then I liked it a little bit more, and then I did like it. So Bailey at least improved. Dragonfire was the least worst, and Curse of Fenric is the strongest. But still an amazing story, and I highly recommend it. Having Battlefield and Ghost of Fenric back. It's also the first story of this season to actually go off Earth. I mean, it's also the only story in the season to have. It's only episode 2, in fact, is completely Earth-based, apart from maybe one or two scenes where they go and get another victim to come and become another to join the hunt. And whilst it's a shame this is the final story the show would end on until the TV movie later on, excluding a few other things in the between, and first story of a season until 16 years later, again, apart from excluding all the other stuff excluding stuff that went on in the Wilderness Years, including the TV movie. It's a shame this is the last story of season. Shut up! Shut up! But despite that, I think this is a brilliant story to end the season on, and despite it being the end of the show at this, and even, fucking hell, what am I saying? And to recap, number 4 is Battlefield, number 3 is, sorry, that's wrong. And to recap, Search Out Space, Search Out Space Special, Search is far superior in that category. And then we'll start Series 1 with Rose. And the top 5... Did I say there was going to be a Wilderness Years? There will also be a Wilderness Years ranking between the early to mid-2000s ranking and then the top 5 8th Doctor ranking. The stories ranking. Okay, that's me done now.